Hi everyone. Today I wanted to do something a little bit different. I'm going to do a Gary Cooper double feature. This is Gary Cooper from the mid-30s, and the first of the films will be Peter Ibbetson. This is from 1935, and we see Gary Cooper there with looking somewhat different than we've seen him before. A pencil-thin mustache. He's got long tapering sideburns. He's got slicked back hair. This was a time when Cooper was definitely playing different kind of roles. He's not quite the Gary Cooper that we remember, but he is a big movie star. And he can play elegant comedies, as in Lubitsch's Design for Living, his previous film, Lives of a Bengal Dancer, adventure film. He's comfortable in that. And here he plays in a kind of fantasy, a kind of romantic fantasy movie. And so he's playing an architect. When we first see him, it's like maybe 20 minutes into the movie, close up, he's looking at a model building. His friends, his fellow employees are out, or the work day is over. Let's go carousing. Let's find girls. Gary Cooper, he's playing against type here. No, there's some sort of spell over him, some sort of depression. He can't be happy, and this is noticed by his boss, played by Donald Meek. And Donald Meek is playing a character who is blind, but even though he's blind, he's happy. And Gary Cooper says, "How can you be, here you have this disability and you're happy, and I'm not." And Meek, an understanding and boss sends him to Paris. Go to Paris for a couple of weeks, figuring that he'll find some sort of rejuvenation there. He meets Ida Lupino. Ida Lupino he meets at some tourist site, and they join up together. And Ida Lupino she gives a real jolt of energy to the movie itself, but also to Gary Cooper. She's sort of the alternative to his sort of morbid outlook on life. And he has lived as a boy in this Paris suburb. They visit his house, and it's in disarray. She finds a swing. She's full of life. This is a different avenue for him to go. But as soon as he hits his house that is in disarray, he remembers his childhood. All his memories come back to him. Then, back in London, he's assigned to build a stable of a very rich duke. The duke is played by John Halliday. Now, I think it's safe to say that Gary Cooper's acting style is basically with his eyes. He can express such a wide range of emotions with his eyes. He's not a physical actor in the sense of, say, Cary Grant, who can act with his body. But I would say with John Halliday, who's also in the second half of this double feature, he has very expressive eyes, but they're one note. They pierce into you. And this Duke he's playing a villain, and he plays. He normally does play villains, and the Duchess, his wife, is played by Anne Harding. And Anne Harding was a very beautiful actress and a very capable actress, but she lacked that kind of charisma that Cooper had. So there's a little bit of an imbalance, I think, in this Gary Cooper and Anne Harding confrontation. But they soon feel like they met before. They feel a sense of communion. And of course, as you can tell by the cover, we're going to get a romance. I've skipped over the first 20 minutes of the film. These are the childhood scenes, and and Peter Ibbetson here is played by Dickie Moore, and Dickie Moore played Oliver Twist. He was in a movie with Marlene Dietrich, Joseph von Sternberg movie, and next door to the house that he lives in there's a young girl, Mary, and she's played by Virginia Wilder, who is probably most famous for playing Katharine Hepburn's younger sister in the Philadelphia Story. This is a relationship of quarrels, of swings, of doll houses, of wagons. They quarrel with each other, but they also have this deep kind of feel for each other. And then as tragedy hits Peter Ibbetson's family, Douglas Dumbrell, the great Douglas Dumbrell, another actor who normally played either villains or people who of a very stern nature, comes to take Peter away. And he doesn't want to go, and mainly because of his affection, his friendship, and in the context of the film, actual love for this neighbor girl. And so the film asks the questions in a fantasy context. Can a childhood love last? 10 years old, Dickie Moore was 10, Virginia Wilder was 8 at the time. And then later on it asks us the question, can we live in dreams? This is the crux of the fantasy. And Charles Lang, the great Paramount cinematographer, and he should be on the cover of, his credit should be on the cover of just about every film that he shot at Paramount. He gives a very realistic element to the dreams. These aren't dreams of, squiggly lines, or they look real. And the look of the film, is enhanced too by some of the motifs of bars. There's bars separating Dickie Moore, Peter's, and his young girlfriend's yards, and even the rays of the sun, the rays of the moon. It's beautifully photographed, as you would expect. And the film was applauded by the surrealists in Paris. They really discovered the film, as it were, because the film didn't do well in the U.S. And understandably so, because it's such an oddball movie. And I guess I should also mention the director, Henry Hathaway. I think this was about maybe his 9th or 10th movie. He had never made a silent film, but he worked with a lot of the great directors of the silent era. By his own account, Henry Hathaway, when he was under contract to his studio, he basically took whatever the studio offered him. And like Cooper, he was a very versatile director. He directed The Lives of a Bengal Dancer with Cooper the previous year. And he's probably known later in his career for the John Wayne westerns, North of Alaska, True Grit, Sons of Katie Elder, True Grit, the film that John Wayne won an Academy Award. And also his versatility was also evident in film noir in the late 40s, with movies that went to the streets to give a documentary feel to movies that was shot all on location. Niagara, a beautiful Technicolor movie that had Marilyn Monroe in one of her first real significant roles. So he was certainly a director who he made a lot of films, but he was not considered an artistic director. I did a video on 23 Paces to Baker Street, a film he made in the 50s that he said he just did for, because that's the movie they assigned him to do. But he always gave his films a very significant look to them. He was very interested in the way the set designs, and he had Hans Dreyer, the great set designer, on Peter Ibbetson, and he was also very interested in the performances. He understood actors, and Anne Harding, in the beginning of this film, she says to Hathaway, she goes to Hathaway and says, "Gary Cooper's giving me nothing. I mean, he's not acting." And Hathaway said, no, go look at the dailies. And she went off and watched some of the scenes they had filmed, and she came back, and you're right. Cooper's got something that I'm not seeing on the set, and that was fairly common with some of the attitudes towards Cooper in that time. So this is the first. Peter Ibbetson is the first of this Gary Cooper double feature. And the next one, which I hope I'll be able to film and publish very shortly, is Cooper with Marlene Dietrich in Desire. Okay, that about wrap this up. Thanks for everybody, as always, who managed to listen to me. I really appreciate it. Comments are welcome. You guys take care.